Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marissa. I would like to make a video for you guys today on vulnerability. So this is something that kind of came up for me during this week, and given that it was one of those lame holidays like Valentine's Day, I thought it might actually, I don't really mean that, but I kind of don't really care about it. I thought it might be sort of cool to touch on this topic because I think that it's something, honestly, we need more of in this world. So, what is vulnerability? I think perhaps people don't have a good idea of what it might actually entail. So, vulnerability is what I would consider shining light on something that feels personal to you. That's the reason that you're going to feel vulnerable, because there's something that means something to you. So you're doing your best to kind of like keep people like them over there and you're over here, and like you're in your thoughts and stuff. So the idea behind it is vulnerability is a form of, it's almost like allowing your inside to be exposed into the outside. I guess it's just a way of putting it, but it's kind of like letting people in on who you really are and doing it courageously. Like it's not like there's lack of fear there, but you really do push yourself or challenge yourself to actually like kind of share something with people or with loved ones or a friend or something that will expose your vulnerability. And most of the time, the funny thing is like you'll actually find that people are way more receptive to vulnerability than you would think. So we're in our own head and we're thinking like, oh my God, people are gonna freak out, or I can't believe, and in some aspects, like that's not wrong, because there obviously is a challenge on that side of the fence that needs to be dealt with as well. But at the end of the day, vulnerability is something you kind of do for yourself, but in truth, you really do help people when you're vulnerable too. So there's 3 key points that I like to encourage people to be vulnerable for these 3 reasons. Let's get started. So when we're vulnerable, I think we help people understand that there is no major separation between what you've experienced as a person and what I've experienced as a person. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody having had more serious challenges in their life, that it's not, it outweighs somebody who hasn't had as many challenges. It's not the point. The idea is to kind of like merge this gap between people thinking that they're alone in their circumstances. So vulnerability really helps people understand that they're not alone. And I think that's really important, especially with kids nowadays and everything being online and everything social media. And social media is great for some things, and it's terrible for others. So I think that it just needs to be a little bit more balanced, and unfortunately it feels a little bit too like mask on, and nobody's actually sharing the authenticity of maybe who they are. And I think it's a shame, because we're all here for a reason. We got something to share with the world. So that's the first point. The second one is that it's so liberating. Like I equate it to, I'll never forget, I went to Costa Rica a few years ago, and I went for the very first time ziplining, and I am not kidding when I say like I nearly shat myself. I was so nervous, and it was like a mental barrier that I had because I'm afraid of heights and this whole bit. So it was hard for me to wrap my mind around getting past, just imagining that I would actually be on like the other side of that, and like a wire was gonna take me there, and I couldn't fathom. But anyway, the idea is like it's liberating in the sense that if you think that it's impossible to do, and you think that it's gonna be just like an out of this world experience and there's no way people are gonna understand me and whatever, but it really feels good. You feel confident. There's a little sense of like accomplishment that comes from sharing with someone, and knowing, again, to the first point, that you might be helping somebody sort of understand that they're not alone. And I think it's really important. I think nowadays, like, people hide too much. People don't share enough, and it's incredibly frustrating sometimes. I understand that everybody has to share in their own time and at their own level, but really I think it's something that needs to be taught to everybody nowadays, so that kids understand this, and kids turn into teenagers that get it, and teenagers turn into young adults that understand it and are compassionate with others, and it's a ripple effect. And I think this holds a lot of weight. For me, I think it's a big deal. And then the very last point is that it gives you permission. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes here. Yeah, it gives you permission to set yourself free. And again, and touching on the other points, in setting yourself free, you allow others to set themselves free. And it's that ripple effect. So to my point is, like, at the end of that experience of being vulnerable, one could think that in the very least you've put it out there and you've done your part, and it's understanding that that other person may have received your vulnerability and thought, wow, you know what, that took a lot of courage, that was so cool, you know. And you think to yourself for a second, that person might think to themselves for a second, you know what, like, I'm gonna do that for someone. That felt so good. I'm so honored that that person shared something with me, that I'm gonna challenge myself and do that for someone next time. You know, there's a circumstance and something comes up and you want to share some of that. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea how important I think vulnerability is. I think it's something that should be embraced a little bit more. It is scary, but it's not the lack of fear that actually does it. It's actually with fear being present that we challenge ourselves to kind of like push forward with this. So I challenge you to be courageous and be vulnerable in your next conversations. Have a nice day.